Welcome back, dear viewers, to the RPG Imaginarium, where here we seek to catalog the best traditional gaming stories the internet has to offer. Tonight we bring you the story of an effeminate Drow prince, a wood elf ranger, and their love and cultural misunderstandings. The story was posted by an anonymous user on 4chan's TG board. As always, a link to the original will be posted below. Well, basically it went down like this. Get an invitation to join an online group doing fantasy roleplay. I'm told I will be coming a bit late into the campaign, so think long and hard about what kind of character I want to make and how they would meet the party. Decide to go for the damsel in distress route by inverting it and playing an effete Drow princeling, kidnapped by the agents of a rival matron to be held hostage on the surface, so his mother couldn't get to him. Since he was tormented by his captors throughout his arduous journey, he would quickly bond with whomever rescued him, and opt to stay with them rather than return home, as his family wasn't much better than his kidnappers. The party, not knowing any of this was going down, was fighting their way through the kidnappers' hideout, unaware I would soon be joining them. I'm tied up in the trophy room with all the loot, starved and battered and generally looking like something the cat dragged in. The door burst open and in comes a fucking wood elf. So my character ends up just sort of spazzing out because he's not sure if he's going to be rescued or murdered. It could have gone either way, honestly, but the rest of the party rushes in before things escalate. Wood Elf is basically a twin of my own character, by the way, only more athletic and brown rather than my guy's light purple and frail body. Anyway, because the cleric was a huge moral fag who was like, mercy, he might be good, they end up taking him in and nursing him back to health over a few days. Just to clear things up, my Drow is not some goody two-shoes. He more or less is lawful evil and only looks after himself. Except that now, after being rescued by these weird strangers, he is feeling all of those weird non-Drow feelings, like gratitude and humility, since he fully expected to just be killed, especially towards the Wood Elf, who was the first friendly face he had seen in months. Before we go further, I just want to explain how he was able to stick with them on the surface. Basically, they just wrapped him up in bandages and said he was a victim of a weird magical shit, and since the party already had a good reputation, nobody thought anything of it. Drow keeps trying to make nice with the Wood Elf and be helpful to the party in general, but fails since he cannot into surface culture. Examples of fuck-ups and awkward moments include offering to murder someone the Wood Elf didn't like, almost getting the party killed when he heard them complain about being low on funds, so he found his way into the black market, stole some drugs from local drug dealers to sell at much higher prices, nearly starting a street war. Greatly embarrassing the party by walking up to the consort of the lord they were meeting and completely snubbing the actual lord because he thought the wife was the one in charge. Trying to solve a border dispute by suggesting tactics that only weren't a war crime because no one in the kingdom was evil enough to think of them until now. Eventually, most of the party is beginning to reconsider keeping him with them, but then during a fight against some orcs he saved the other elf by taking a near-lethal blow and almost dying himself. Party realizes that he may be incredibly fucked up, but he is clearly capable of altruism, so they decide to try and teach him how to people. Actually, they drew straws because no one actually wanted to deal with him. The Wood Elf loses. I think the GM did that on purpose, by the way. I got some Fujo vibes off of her. Party member that distrusts my Drow the most, and also is liked the most by my Drow, ends up having to spend a lot of time deprogramming his fucked up psyche. They have a big scene where my Drow just starts bawling because he realizes he's so far gone he doesn't even know how to properly express non-sadistic compassion. Wood Elf begins to stop hating him and just feels sorry for him. My Drow just follows him around like an abandoned puppy whenever he's not doing anything specific. Pretty much everyone else in the party knows my Drow has got a thing for him, but the two elves actually haven't figured it out yet. Wood Elf because he's dense, Drow because he doesn't know what normal non-spidery love is. Anyway, after some time fighting the local criminal organizations, we start to figure out that there was some big bad pulling the strings. Start digging deeper into it and learn that the Drow are controlling the kingdom's crime rings from the shadows. Shit gets real and we end up going against a full clan. Eventually the leader herself comes out to deal with us. It's my Drow's mother. She gets pretty pissed at my character but promises to spare me if I help her kill the rest of the party. My character does a really heartfelt speech that I forgot how it went, about how this is his new family, Drow society is kind of fucked up, there's someone he couldn't bear to disappoint, etc, etc. End up grabbing the Wood Elf's hand near the end. She gets mad. Wood Elf, who has just figured out why my Drow has been acting like he was the whole time, notices she got mad. Grabs my Drow by the waist and gives him the Frenching of a lifetime. Drow's mother gets so fucking apoplectic at seeing her son embraced by a filthy surface elf that her words waver enough for the rest of the party to mount an attack and kill her. Drow and Wood Elf are now partners and don't leave one another's side. I know this all sounds pretty vanilla, but this whole sort of scenario is like ultimate boner fuel for me. I just intended for it to become a comedy thing, but it evolved into one of the most adorable romances I've ever seen, and I definitely had fun with it. Alright, the cross-dressing story it is. Just for context, this happened right around when the party was starting to really crack down on the Dark Elf core of the crime rings. Party finds the location of a Drow outpost in the catacombs below the city. It contains a MacGuffin that is needed to find transport routes for the Syndicate. Party needs to sneak in so the MacGuffin isn't removed before they can steal it. Leader hits on the idea that they could use my Drow to open the gates for them. My Drow says that wouldn't work because he's only a lowly male and the guards would ask questions. This does not deter the party. Throw my character into a dress without much protesting, a female member of the party helps him do makeup. The plan is put into motion. Enter the catacombs and detect 2 male Drow guards just around the corner. Here is my moment to shine. Too bad my character is scared shitless. Wood Elf gives him some words of encouragement, though, and he eventually gathers his nerve and rounds the corner, dragging the rest of the party along in chains behind him. Rolls bluff to present himself as an emissary from a distant part of the Syndicate, who will be staying here for a while to ensure everything is up to snuff, and that the party were his mind-broken fucktoys and spoke at length of the horrific fun they were going to have once properly situated. Party hears all of this. Roll really fucking well. Guards are convinced my character is a sadistic sociopath with a very high ranking in the organization, and God help them if they delay her further. Party is practically shoved inside. When we finally get a good distance into the lair, my Drow unlocks the party's shackles and tries really, really hard not to look them in the eye. Party is looking at him like he's some kind of demon. They ended up getting over the thing and barely escaping, but man, the journey back to base was just one long, awkward silence. Alright, here's the date story. This happened shortly after the 2 of them officially became a thing. Both elves have been avoiding each other since they don't know what to do next. Wood Elf decides to take the initiative and ask my Drow on a date. Drow says yes, of course. Goes to the party sorceress a while later and asks what the fuck is a date. Sorceress explains it is when 2 people who like each other very much agree to meet up and have fun. Drow just nods as he has seen this sort of thing in the Underdark. Thank you for the advice. I will be going to prepare now. The only sort of romance he is familiar with is when a female selects a male and basically drags him off to be bedded and wedded. Is now expecting to be roughly ravaged by the Wood Elf the next time they meet. Meanwhile, the Wood Elf is planning on taking my Drow out on a horse ride through the forest. Finds a decent pair of animals and takes them by the reins, leading them back to camp. On the other end, my Drow is trying to look his best for the meeting, setting up the bed, spritzing perfume, etc, etc. Hears footsteps outside. Opens the flap of his tent and tries to look seductive. Completely flubs it when he sees his partner, who he fully expects is going to have sex with him, has brought along 2 fucking horses. Tells the Wood Elf he didn't know he was into that sort of thing. Well, I mean, I'm a Wood Elf, what did you expect? Drow is just sort of blue screening and wondering how he should deal with this until he sees the saddle. Wood Elf is wondering what the heck is going on, and then he notices the skimpy clothing, the perfume, the bed for 2 in the back of the tent. It clicks for both of them at roughly the same time. Both start stammering out explanations/apologies. Rest of the party, who was watching from a distance and encouraging the Wood Elf, start losing their shit. Eventually, they end up splitting the date between their 2 planned activities. Thanks, I'm glad you like it. Here's the last story, sometime after the first 2. Party stops at a small town they all started at. Wood Elf goes to meet his fellow rangers he grew up with. Eventually, one of them asks him if he's met some pretty girl out in his adventures. He can't hide the fact that he met someone despite his best efforts, getting flustered. Friends obviously want to know more. Wood Elf says he'll come back tomorrow and show them. Comes back as promised, bringing my character, concealed via a cloak and shaking in his boots, as there are other surface elves present. Wood Elf knows that even though they're like family, some things are just a bit beyond the pale at first glance, and concocts a plan to soften the blow. Grabs my Drow and holds him close to his chest, and starts recounting their adventures together, saying that my character came from a bad place but is getting better. He saved the Wood Elf's life multiple times, basically telling the whole story without saying exactly what he is. Rangers listen with rapt attention, at the end are practically shouting for him to stop playing games and let them see who this special someone is. Drow lifts his hood. Dead fucking silence. Some of the other elves look utterly scandalized. Eventually, a grizzled human, the leader of the group, steps forward and looks my Drow over. Who is on the verge of collapse from anxiety, by the way. He's mostly being held up by the Wood Elf. Eventually the boss says that if my drow is good enough for the wood elf, it's good enough for him. Also, if you hurt my boy here, I will hunt you down and skin you alive. The lodge ends up throwing a small party in the couple's honor, and my drow rolls well enough that he makes a good impression on them. Party goes on into the night, and the two of them leave on a high note. I know it's not the most humorous or thrilling story, but I thought it was a heartwarming moment. Well, yeah, it was actually pretty nerve-wracking too, since we had to roll to not ruin everything. It wasn't just a story event. The funniest part to me was that they didn't even care my drow was a guy, just that he was a dark elf. Like, being gay was one thing, but gay with a drow, it's a little just too much. But yeah, overall, it was a really enjoyable campaign. Definitely had a lot of cute moments. And that's all I can remember. Campaign went on hiatus a while back. And last we left off, the two of them were still a happy couple adventuring out in the countryside. Hopefully we play them again sometime, as I really enjoyed their adventures. Thank you all for once again tuning into another RPG Imaginarium. We're glad you enjoy these videos and stories. If you enjoyed this video and want more like it, how about giving us a like and subscribing to our channel? We're always glad to hear your feedback, and if you have a story you'd like us to read, go ahead and send us a link, whether it's your story or posted somewhere else. And of course, we will credit you and the original poster. We also have the all-newfangled social media you can follow us on, and if you'd like to support us financially, how about you check out our resident GM Chaz's books on Amazon Kindle. A special thanks to 4chan's TG board and Reddit, and to their associated archives and subreddits for providing such great stories. Thanks again, and stay caffeinated.